Hello everybody, Everyman Prepping here, and today is your World War report for the 22nd of March 2023. We got some stories here dealing with wars in the East, what's going on in Europe, and other world events happening that are going to affect us all. I'm going to try to make this as short as possible. You're busy, I'm busy, you got to work, I got to work, and we all have prepping stuff to do. And we're going to start off with talking about the meeting between China and Russia in Moscow, and what they came up with, and some very important statements that came out of there. So hit that subscribe button, also like, comment, and share the video, and ring that bell icon as well if you want to be updated when the new videos come out. So let's get started talking about Xi and Putin here. So here we are starting off with some tweets I put out about the meeting. This is an important one here. And by the way, if you want to follow me on Twitter there, it's, you can see it's at Everyman Prepper. Not, I highlight that, not Everyman Prepping because it's too long for Twitter. Couldn't fit it in there. So at Everyman Prepper, as you see there. But going on from there, why I said the petrodollar's dying is we basically have Putin, in a joint press conference saying, we're in favor of using the Chinese yuan for settlements between Russia and countries of Asia, Africa, Latin America. Already two-thirds of trade between our countries is done in rubles and yuan. And this is a comment by the one posted this. Is big for China, basically saying yuan is the new reserve world currency. I believe it's going to be that way probably, or they'll pick a BRICS one, but big news there, much more support, much more depth to the US dollar coming. The next one is another tweet I put out. Let's back this up here. And we have here, as they're leaving, this is Putin saying bye to Xi, thanking him. Xi Jinping says, change is coming that hasn't happened in 100 years, and we are driving this change together. Putin says, I agree. Then Xi says, please take care, my dear friend. Putin, have a safe journey. What are they talking about? What hasn't happened in 100 years? So we're talking about early 1900s, 1920. What happened back then? Well, right after World War I, the U.S. is becoming the world power, and the U.S. dollar has become basically the world's reserve currency. As you can see here real quick, this is a chart of global reserve currency since 1450. You can see Portugal, Spain, Netherlands, France, Britain. And this, yes, you have the United States starting in 1921. Some will say it didn't start until after World War II with Bretton Woods, but most people say it started in 1921. So what is Xi saying here? He's basically saying something is coming that hasn't happened in 100 years. Well, that's the destruction of one world reserve currency and replaced by another. And that's exactly what they're talking about. Taking down the U.S., both I think, in the reserve world currency and as a superpower. And like I said, they're driving the change together and they're buddied up. So they are now a strong alliance. We now have two major, basically confirmed superpowers that are enemies. So, things are going to get really interesting from here, which leads to this next article. Britain supplying depleted uranium rounds to Ukraine. This was something that Russia said, don't do this. It's going to be bad, but Britain doesn't seem to care. The UK doesn't care. It says the UK will send armor-piercing rounds which contain depleted uranium to Ukraine for use with the tank squadron that they're donating. The Challenger tanks they're providing. Depleted uranium, of course, is radioactive. It's very dense. It's used for armor piercing. It can, get through the tank's armor, kill the people inside. But in doing so, basically it vaporizes the uranium. It says such rounds are highly effective in defeating modern tanks and armored vehicles. But the Kremlin said this is basically a dirty bomb that will be used against Russia, and it'll have all the ensuing consequences. And we'll look at that in a minute here. Let's go to this one here. Putin warns the UK against supplying depleted uranium to Ukraine. Moscow will treat the munitions as weapons with a nuclear component. There's another Challenger tank here. This is from Putin here. I would like to note that if this happens, then Russia will be forced to react accordingly, bearing in mind that the collective West have already started to use weapons with a nuclear component. So, in the eyes of Russia and Putin, if you use a depleted uranium round, it has a nuclear component, you've already started a nuclear war, and they will probably act in kind. And then we have from the Russian Defense Minister, Sergei Shoigu, another step has been taken. There are fewer and fewer steps left, meaning there are fewer and fewer left, meaning we're getting closer and closer where someone's just going to press that button either on a tactical or strategic nuke or an EMP and then just end it all. So not going well on that front. Then we're going to switch over to Asia here for a little bit. North Korea claims 1.4 million people just enlisted to fight the imperialist United States. So North Korea, the new claims that there is a mass enlistment amid an atmosphere of war. If you remember, South Korea and the United States are doing a 11-day, I think we're about in the middle of it, maybe day 6 or 7 that they're recording this video, of their joint exercises, practicing to invade basically North Korea. So this, angered North Korea, and they've been blasting off missiles almost every day. We're going to see one of those in a minute here. But they also say they're enlisting tons of people. I don't know if I can believe this because it is North Korea. Are these people really volunteering, or are they basically, being coerced into volunteering, or if something bad is going to happen to themselves or their family? I don't know. They said during the last weekend there were 800,000 citizens that signed up. But by Monday, the number jumped to 1.4 million people enlisting. Here's a picture of a whole bunch of North Korean soldiers. Do I believe it's a free enlistment? No, I think they're being coerced. Do they have that many people? Yes. But think of the sheer numbers. There's at a point when you're at war with a country, let's say North Korea and South Korea at war. Does South Korea and the United States have technologically advances over the North? Yes, for sure. But if you're sending over 1 million people, let's say you have that, down to fight, soon numbers just overwhelm you. No matter what your technology you have, how much your firepower you have, the sheer numbers will just overwhelm another force. I know the usual is a 3-to-1 advantage. If you're going on the attack, you need 3 times the number of soldiers as the people defending. But if you have 1 million, that means the United States and South Korea would have 300,000-400,000. They don't have that ready to go, and so they're just going to be overwhelmed. Another point out here, all these troops, all the missiles, all the ballistic missiles they're shooting off, there's so many sanctions on North Korea. Do you not think that Russia and China are supporting them? Of course they are. They're going through land. Like we talked in the video yesterday where, the Saudi-Iran deal is great for Saudi Arabia to get, goods into Moscow because of sanctions. It's great for avoiding sanctions because you can go through land. Both Iran can avoid sanctions that way, Moscow, and probably China here in the future. So, of course, China, in my opinion, and Russia are aiding North Korea. Otherwise, how are they getting all these advancements? That leads to this. They have plenty of ballistic missiles to shoot off. And, North Korea on Monday said it launched a ballistic missile over the weekend as part of a simulated nuclear attack on the South. These things aren't cheap. They keep blasting them off. They have great technology. They're just out there displaying it. It says notably it came on the same day that a U.S. B-1B strategic bomber joined the aerial exercises that are going on right now simulating the attack on North Korea. There's something really important about this. It says, while there are reports that the North's provocative Sunday launch involved a projectile tipped with a mock nuclear warhead, and it was exploded about 800 meters above targeted waters. So they're doing an airburst. So they're practicing an airburst. And you do that for a nuclear weapon for a couple reasons. One is you don't have as much destruction on the ground. You could create a little EMP effect, but there's still a lot of destruction. But you don't get that radiation from kicking up, the debris in the dirt, because a ground burst, all that radiation gets in the soil and the building products, everything gets vaporized, thrown up in the air, and radiation goes everywhere. Since you live in North Korea, if you're North Korean, you're going to nuke the South, you don't want all that radiation coming back over your country through the dust and the drift. So you do an airburst because a lot of the radiation then goes into the sky, drift away. It doesn't have a lot of particulate matter. It won't be a lot of fallout. There'll be some, but not as much. So they know what they're doing. They're showing that, hey, not only are we going to airburst you, that's because we're going to then take you over. We're not just doing it to eliminate you, but we're going to occupy you as well. That's my opinion what they're doing there. So ramping up on that side. Going over here back to Crimea really quick and Russia and Ukraine. There was also a Monday night. Monday was a big day for attacks. I guess they rested up over the weekend or something. But there was a Monday night destruction of Russian cruise missiles which were stationed in Crimea. Russian Calibar cruise missiles were successfully destroyed in a drone attack. And this is supposedly a picture of the drone attack and the explosion. It said the mysterious series of blasts continue the process of Russia's demilitarization and prepares the Ukrainian peninsula for deoccupation. That was from the Ukrainian military intelligence. They still think they're going to take Crimea back. Russia's never going to let that happen before it goes nuclear, I don't think, but that's what they're saying. But the big thing is that drones went into Crimea, avoided air defense, and took out ballistic missiles. That's pretty big. Goes further into Russia said if you attack Crimea, you're in trouble. That's happened before. Are they going to do anything? I don't know. This line's been crossed a lot, but Russia really hasn't done anything big. They might do a big missile strike into Ukraine, but, Ukraine got into Crimea again. It says 5 locations were targeted, and at the bottom here, we see on the map, this is the Crimean Peninsula, and you can see this little box here is where they hit. Now, yesterday, which, like I said, recording this would have been Tuesday, last night the Ukrainians tried to do a drone attack into, putting this map up, into Sevastopol here. They tried to hit some Navy ships, but this time the Russian ADA air defense took them all out, so that wasn't successful. But Ukrainian drones, they're trying to get them into Crimea, trying to attack a lot here. They're probing. I think they're probing attacks. We'll see what happens, but that did happen again last night. So, they're pushing the Russians to see what they'll do. That's the quick review I have for you today. Like I said, I want to make it quick. So, summary, we have, like we just went, drone attacks into Crimea, ballistic missiles, trying to hit the Navy base that was foiled. You have, the UK saying we're going to give you some depleted uranium rounds with our tanks, which Russia said that's a nuclear attack. Basically, you started the nuclear weapons use. And you have North Korea practicing nuclear bombs over South Korea. And finally, you had the meeting between Russia and Xi, where they said, we're buddy-buddy. We're going to do something that hasn't been done in 100 years, which is create a new reserve currency, which then takes down that superpower that was the reserve currency, which is the United States of America. Look for China to start shipping weapons into Russia in defiance of the world, because they're basically going to thumb the finger and say, we don't care. We are the new world. Us and the BRICS nations, Russia, China, India, all their allies, Iran, they're going to say, we are the new kids on the block. We're the big boys. We're not listening to what the West has to say anymore. So keep on prepping. Keep doing what you're doing. Stay busy. Get your work done. Do some of your prepping. And always remember, save time for your family. Hang out with them. Time is precious these days. And until next time, keep your ear to the ground. Head on a swivel.